This episode is brought to you by Blue Chew and Warner Media. Stay tuned for more information later in the show.
Welcome to the nightmare of recording a podcast from home, and everybody's in different places. AKA the Death Battle Cast. It's always chaos here. I'm Ben, the voice of Wiz. Below me, we're going.
I'm Chad. I play Boomstick.
This way, whatever that is. So Sam, you're
yeah,
next.
okay. Well, then I'm Sam, and I do stuff like produce and writes and stuff.
Like perfectly frame up your lounge chair.
It's there because Austin was playing Final Fantasy 17 there.
It's really nice.
Or
17.
7, not 17.
Oh,
we're in the fucking
whoa!
future
Where
here,
have I
Liam.
been? Yeah. And I'm Liam. I'm a writer and researcher for Death Battle. Hello.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again, Liam. And
course.
Liam was the main writer for the episode that just aired a little bit ago. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Kakashi. Matchup that we've been very excited about for a very long time. And it seems that it's been doing okay. It was trending for a while. It got a million views in a day, less than a day. And reactions have been interesting.
Oh, yes.
But so last week we mentioned that we were delaying the Q&A to this week. And we will be going over the Q&A for it, of course, as well as the sneak peek for Danny versus Jake, which is coming up in a bit. But Sam, you have something to...
before either of those, let me tell you about Expressvpn, which is the wonderful sponsor of RTTV right now. Keep your data safe with Expressvpn because safe data is a good thing. Okay, now we can talk about questions.
Cool. Head to expressvpn.com/RTTV.
Thank you, Chad,
yes.
for finishing that off there.
All right. So we will have the Q&A. We will have the sneak peek for the upcoming matchup. But if you have not seen Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Kakashi yet, please do so before continuing watching, unless you're okay with spoilers, I suppose. That's totally fine. But we will be talking about the winner of the matchup, why they won, and some of the crazy stuff that happened in that episode that has led to lots and lots of questions. So it is a pretty beefy Q&A this week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not gonna beat around the bush. Let's go ahead and jump into first the sneak peek for Danny Phantom versus American Dragon, Jake Long. Let's do it.
There, back where it belongs.
Yo, back to steal something else?
Dragon up!
You got 3 seconds before the Amdrak's gonna show you out.
What? Going goes! I didn't count 3!
Woo! All right, that is coming up this weekend. Man, Luis and his 2D team have been rocking it for this one, and going back to the puppetry style animation for both Danny and Jake, and it's a little different from what we usually do, or from what that team usually does for animation, but they are doing a really cool job with it. So very excited to share that with you guys. It airs on Rooster Teeth this Sunday, and then it will debut on YouTube 24 hours after that on Monday. And looking forward to see what you guys say about it, because it's a fun episode, I think.
It'd be awesome.
Yep.
There's a really cool shot that takes place on top of a roof. I'm not going to spoil it. I just want to say that.
For a second, I thought the first portion of the fight was going to be just Danny and Jake fighting each other as humans, just two minors kind of slapping each other.
Oh my god. We definitely went through multiple different ideas of how to start the fight. Because like obviously you need to get both transformations in there. So this is written by actually a longtime research member, Lousy, Herschel Lousington. So going through different ideas for how to start the fight, we were like, oh, what if one of them starts out as Ghost or Jake starts out as Dragon, and that's what instigates the fight. It was like, no, we need Dragon up and we need Go and Ghost in it. That has to happen. Yeah. So I think, and then Lousy also had the idea of the Egyptian museum, and some of that stuff might come into play later on in the fight, just to have some fun. Yes, very excited about showing you guys this episode. It's gonna be fun. All right, and I think that kind of wraps up the preview, so we can jump into what is going on. With all these questions, what is going on with 11 questions? Oh my gosh. All right. So Sam or Chad, do either of you guys want to be the question reader?
I could be
sure, as long as you can give me a second to pull it up, because I didn't do it until right now.
We're prepared today.
What if I just read all of the questions but answer none of them?
I can't even tell you how not prepared I am. Like yesterday was like the biggest shit show in years, so I've got like today.
I mean, we've talked about how working from home gets chaotic sometimes. Like not even like in a bad way per se. It's just
really
tedious. Well, we've talked about Chad's bad ways.
You've heard my stories.
I was actually thinking about that yesterday because my girlfriend is fostering another dog. So like when I'm at hers, there's 2 dogs in the house, and I'm like, 2 dogs is fucking bullshit. Like, how does Chad deal with 2 little humans? Like, this is garbage.
I deal with 2 humans, 2 dogs, and a cat.
Yeah, every time I see that, like the second dog, like he's a nice man. I named him Potato. But like I just look at him like, I will put you down if you make more trouble. Like, oh my god, tough life out here. But Potato's a great dog. He's a fucking dumbass, but he's a good dog. So did Obi-Wan win just because it's May 4th, aka Star Wars Day? Would you have released this on the same day if Obi-Wan had lost? Yeah, absolutely. It just would have been better that way. Fucking funny.
So like I don't think any of us actually realized that it was going to release on May 4th until like 2 weeks before. At least I didn't.
It wasn't a main like thing that was brought up during production, but like when we were planning out all the episodes, this is a thing that we always do. We plan out episodes to try to release around times where the characters are relevant if we can. It's not how every episode of Death Battle goes. In fact, the majority of them don't really work out that way. But when we have that opportunity, we do. And it just so happened that the release date for this one lined up with Star Wars Day. And we're like, oh, okay, that'll work out okay. Although we were looking at the I think we might have gotten a little mixed up because we were looking at the first release. And it was like May the 3rd. Right. Oh, okay, it releases right before it. And then like we didn't even think about it after that. And then later on we were like, wait a minute, that means because we were also doing like the release change. So when we were originally scheduling this, it was actually releasing. I totally forgot about this. When we were originally scheduling this, Death Battle used to release on Wednesdays. So we were thinking about that date, which would have been May 6th or 7th or whatever. And so we're like, oh, it's Star Wars week. That'll be fine. And then everything shifted over to the Sunday, Monday release schedule as we went to the 20 episode stuff, 20 episodes in the year. And that just so happened to line up exactly on Star Wars Day, which is crazy. But no, of course not. That did not have any impact on whether or not Obi-Wan won. And obviously, I think most of the comments, talking about this are people kind of joking, like, of course Obi-Wan would win on, Star Wars Day. That's never us releasing an episode with a character who's relevant in the media at the time is never like
there's been plenty of times when that character has then died. So like
the biggest example would be the Power Rangers one, because that was released, I believe, around the time of the movie, and Power Rangers was really big at the time. And then they got Power Rangers versus Voltron specifically, and then they got stomped on and that was really unfortunate. And then that video didn't do as well as it would have, but regardless, we committed because that's what we do here at Death Battle. Next question.
If all Jedi are as powerful as you say, why did they all die during Order 66 by getting shot by a few soldiers? How can the Force predict Kamui? I'm gonna go with
Kamui.
If it can't predict
Kamui.
Kamui, if it can't predict a few
Camels.
lasers, shouldn't Obi-Wan also scale down to other Jedi? Not to mention he was chained up on the Attack of the Clones and left completely helpless against the pit monsters.
So this is probably the biggest question that people had, and it was definitely one. So spoilers, Obi-Wan wins.
Obi-Wan.
Wait, what?
I know.
I saw a different version.
It's. I didn't write that.
That's not what I wrote.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I know. It's weird. Trust me. Our first research call. This is another episode where we had the research review, and we were Liam and I were talking with researchers on this, and was like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan wins, and I went, no, I don't believe you. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
So and like I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan, right? So I was already very aware that like the Force is kind of ridiculous. And even then, I had a bit of a hard time believing, like, I mean, it's a crazy anime ninja. Surely, it's more on Kakashi's side than Obi-Wan. But the more we went through it, the more just crazy bullshit Jedi have to work with. Why did they all die during Order 66, though? That is an excellent question. I mean, frankly, I think
a lot of them weren't that good. Like, I mean, Obi-Wan is one of the best ever. Like, so
they also the big thing, the whole point of Order 66, the whole plan behind it was that these were troops that the Jedi trusted. So they weren't prepared for a fight when the clones started to attack them from the rear, because in most scenarios they were leading from the front and the clones were attacking from the rear. If Jedi aren't actively using the Force, like at that moment, then they're people. Like they're not like super crazy on their own. It's the Force that gives them these abilities, and they can use the Force to enhance their durability, their strength, all of that stuff, in order to make them combat capable. But when they're with the clones, they're not expecting to be hit by the clones, so they weren't prepared. They weren't enhancing themselves. It's kind of like with Goku and that being like struck by that laser in Resurrection of F. He wasn't prepared for it. We wouldn't say that Goku is like that.
It's still so dumb.
Normally. It is dumb. No, it's dumb. It's dumb. It's absolutely dumb. Like the whole explanation for why the Jedi never like suspected Palpatine is dumb, because he was using Force powers to block their minds from sensing his evil. It's stupid.
or
something like that. And I love how all of the like
vague
novelizations and stuff, like all of the extra material has to like, you can clearly tell when something is being written as like a fix for some dumb shit in the movies. Because there's a lot of that. But that's basically the idea. They weren't prepared for it.
They weren't prepared. I think there's also a certain degree to say like, maybe George didn't necessarily intend them to get this powerful.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, there are examples in content that he has approved where the Force gets crazy. And a great example would be in Clone Wars, the planet of Mortis, which is like an epicenter of the Force, and it like alters dimensions and has crazy dreamlike states for people and changes time and things like that. Like, it's nuts. And that's a George Lucas approved concept, because everything had to go through Lucas for that. So
in the very first movie, in A New Hope, Vader says, you know, the power to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force, you know?
Yeah, to be honest, I never took that quite so literally until I started reading the books, though. Well,
they
basically,
took it literally.
The Attack of the Clones moment, I saw several people talking about that, how Obi-Wan was helpless when he was chained up, and the giant blue, what is it called? Acolyte or whatever it's called, the praying mantis monster tried to kill him. I was like,
that was
he actually wasn't helpless. He actually was fine. Like, they were doing just fine.
Didn't they kill the monsters?
they took over them. They rode them out. You have to remember that Attack of the Clones is also, that's a political situation, and like if they were to do anything, it would start a war. And then the Jedi just started a war anyway, and they were like, "All right, I guess we're gonna kill all these droids and monsters." But like at the time, I'm sure Obi-Wan was thinking, probably shouldn't do anything until the last minute, just in case. We'll see what happens. And then they did do stuff at the last minute. So, there's all context is important, but again,
Obi-Wan
at the same
is the
time,
negotiator.
So
Yeah,
next
that's
one.
true. That's his big thing.
You guys forgot the Sasano is how it's.
I love that. I love this. There's always this question. You guys forgot
the
blank.
Sasano.
Yeah.
Well,
thing that I
okay.
No,
So I
Wesley talked about at the end.
we don't have to spend too much time on the Susanoo thing because we spend time in the episode on it. I just wanted to bring it up because it is interesting. If you go to the comments, you can tell who watched the video and who just skipped to the end of the fight, saw who won, and then wanted to complain because they leave this comment. That's it. That's all I have to say about it. We talk about it in the episode.
Yeah.
Next question.
You said the Force is an external power, but that's not true. Are you ignoring midichlorians just because you don't like them?
Yes. No.
I wish that was the reason.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Midichlorians are just
But
a
midichlorians are just
conduit.
how just how in tune with the external force that you are, right? The more midichlorians you have, the easier you can open that channel, right? Like
Basically,
I can
it's like
extrapolate.
a. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can extrapolate what that means. So yeah, the Jedi allow the Force to like flow through them. So in that sense, it is internal, but it's external in all the ways that matter for Kakashi. When Obi-Wan is using the Force, he isn't like taking a ball of Force energy and shooting it out of his hand to push things. He's moving that thing by manipulating the Force that's everywhere. So it isn't like chakra where it's like you take like soul energy and you turn it into a laser, and that laser looks like fire, or it looks like water, or it looks like these other things, depending on how Kakashi wants to shape it. It's not like that. Obi-Wan is manipulating the world around him by like reaching out and feeling the Force that's touching everything. That's why Kakashi couldn't copy it. It's a fundamentally different power system that sounds similar. It's like life energies, but it's not exactly the same. So that was the point that I was making with that piece.
I'm curious about this. We haven't talked about this at all, but like if it was the case of like a Dragon Ball versus if Kakashi was fighting somebody who used ki, like a Dragon Ball character, do you think there could be an argument for him to copy a Dragon Ball move because ki and chakra are more similar?
I think so. He wouldn't be able to he wouldn't be able to do a like he wouldn't be able to copy like Super Saiyan Blue Goku and then fire a Super Saiyan Blue Kamehameha because the level of chakra and ki is so different. But if he was fighting like
destructive disc,
yeah, exactly, or like King Piccolo or something, he would copy the shit out of King Piccolo. Just off the top of my
Maybe
head.
I think there's like a
Probably
lower
more
tier
than that.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure there's some argument that could say like, no, the key is too different from, maybe it comes from different ideologies and whatnot, but it's definitely closer than something like the Force.
Theoretically.
So next up, you say that the Force is the same across all timelines. Isn't that not true? Haven't you said in previous episodes that the prequels changed how the Force works?
So I wanted to specifically address this because I've talked about this, how I believe the Force in the original trilogy is different than it is in the prequels. And I actually brought this up in our conversations, in our research reviews. Not only do I think that it's different in the original timeline or the original trilogy and the prequels, but also in the books. And this is where I was kind of like, at first kind of against Obi-Wan winning, because I was like, well, in the books, like they got all these like Jason, Solo, and Luke are like manipulating reality and stuff, and like the entire universe bends to their will, and it gets absolutely nuts. And I thought, like, that can't be how it is in canon, right? And the more we discussed it, the more it was like, well, no, it does still kind of work with canon. Again, Mortis is a great example of that. So I think for me, the main difference is how it's presented. Like I've always seen the Force presented in the original trilogy as something that is achieved through faith, whereas the prequels turned it into a video game,
Yes.
basically.
Which
And that's
is
less
why it sucks ass.
it's less about what the Force is capable of and more about like how the characters access it. And then the new trilogy tried to reintroduce the faith thing at the beginning, which is why everybody complained about Rey using the Force, but it's like, no, it's a faith thing. Like, you guys are, the prequels brainwashed you into thinking it's a video game thing.
Right.
But then later on in the new trilogy, it becomes a video game thing again when Darth Sidious is like, I can shoot ultra lightning into space or whatever. So the new trilogy is just all over the place. But that's the difference that I talk about, that I mean when I talk about them being different in different timelines, quote unquote. But I think the actual application is still the same.
If you go into the original trilogy and delete all of the information about the Force from your brain, like you're going into it new, how consistent is the Force throughout the original trilogy? There's no law, there's no rules explaining what it can do. There's really, like, telekinesis is a consistent thing, like talking to people through their mind, but it does everything. It does tons of things. You can come back from the dead if you want to. So the point of the Force is that it's this large, unknowable, kind of can do anything thing. And that doesn't mean that we're saying that, like, oh, Obi-Wan can now do anything. But we can only show him doing stuff that he's been shown doing. But the point of the Force is that it's this grand, like, the religious, kind of universal energy. There isn't a lot of consistency to it if you stop like thinking about it like it's a Wikipedia page.
Remember how in Empire Strikes Back? Remember how in Empire Strikes Back Yoda was like, the Force is only limited by yourself. You can't lift the X-Wing because the Force is only limited by you. And then Luke was like, okay, cool. And then he tried to go across the universe several movies later, and then the Force killed him because it was limited. That's interesting.
Remember when Luke went into a cave and then he fought Darth Vader, but then Darth Vader was actually him?
Oh,
because the
Explain
Force.
that with video game. Yeah,
I mean, I mean, in that case, it's like also Yoda was just like old as fucking senile and like cracked out. Like, I don't know why. Why the fuck are you taking the swamp monster's word for anything? Like, okay, cool. He can still lift the X-wing, but this man is clearly unstable, right? Like, but
so
anyways, we can move on from that.
Well, real quick, I just want to say, like, because there is a difference in how it is presented, I do think there is an argument to be made, especially nowadays. And I make fun of Last Jedi, but Last Jedi also helped lock this down. The idea of how the Force being applied is different. Now, the way I read it, and I think a lot of other people read it, is that the Jedi were applying, or their basic concept of the Force was flawed, and they were looking at it as a video game. And then when Luke meets Yoda on Dagobah, he's kind of realized that, oh shit, we fucked up. This is what the Force is actually like. And then that's why the methodology of the Force changes. But again, the actual application of it does not. Yeah. Anyway, now we can move on.
Before we move on today, I'm in a different location, and I'm here to tell you about our sponsor, Blue Chew. Let's talk about something we could all use a little bit more of right now. Sex. Especially great sex, as the read says, which I am inclined to agree with. So listen up, y'all. If you're looking to increase your performance and get some extra confidence in bed, go to BlueChew.com. That's blue like the color blue. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and since it's a chewable, they work twice as fast as a pill. So you can be ready whenever the opportunity arises. Blue Chew is made in the USA. It's prescribed online by licensed physicians, so you don't have to go to the doctor, stand in line, worry about social distancing, any of that stuff. And it's even cheaper than a pharmacy. And they prepare and ship it right to you in a discreet package. No awkwardness, and you don't have to leave your house. Isn't that wonderful? If you could benefit from a little bit more confidence when it counts, Blue Chew is the fast and easy way to enhance your performance. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment free when you use our special promo code DBC. That's DBC like Death Battle Cast, and you pay just $5 shipping and get the whole thing for free. Again, that's BlueChew.com, promo code DBC to try it free. Blue Chew is a better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring our podcast. And remember, when you support our sponsors, you support us.
and you help us make this podcast possible. So go to Blue Chew and please use our promo code DBC. Anyways, on with the show.
Yeah, why the hell did Kakashi use 1,000 Years of Death when he could have killed Obi-Wan right then? This means you nerfed Kakashi by not letting him win when he had the chance. Okay, I mean, like, I could take this one easy because they're not fucking, like, we've done this 100 times. The fights are not like, this is exactly how it would go down. We've looked into every universe possible, and this is what happened. Like, we're making an entertaining fucking thing, and it would have been like, we wanted that funny joke in there. Like, we wanted that because it's fucking funny, and you write it in the script, and you're like, that's good. Let's do that. Like, they not one-to-one perfect analytical views of what would happen. Like, there's gonna be a joke in there occasionally. There's gonna be something that a character just does because it's fucking sweet. Like, yeah, we're also making a piece of entertainment. So yeah.
It's not necessarily a one-to-one simulation of what exactly would go down, because there's no way we can't even predict that. Like, that's impossible. These are fictional characters from fictional stories with fictional universes. We can't predict exactly what would go down. We can't predict what would happen 100% of the time. That's not what Death Battle tries to do. We're just creating the best argument for who would win the majority of the time. And, the fight is meant to display some of that comparison. Like, is Obi-Wan capable of detecting Kamui and dodging it? Yeah, with the Force. So we show that. But, like, why would we not use 1,000 Years of Death? That's hilarious and ridiculous. And the idea of our poor source filmmaker animators having to shove Kakashi's fingers up Obi-Wan's butt. Devil Artemis,
get him in there.
Devil Artemis made a post on Twitter that was like his favorite piece of direction that he's had in a while is one of our cuts. So Christina and I were directing the animation with them, and we were in a meeting room with them over Skype and or Google Hangouts or whatever, and we showed the first cut of that scene, and both Christina and I were like, should have the fingers go in more.
Yeah.
to the knuckle.
To the knuckle.
Deeper. We can go deeper.
Oh, he just likes that.
Keep
going.
So next one. Genjutsu functions by affecting the victim's chakra. Does that mean it wouldn't work on Obi-Wan at all anyway?
So yeah, this is a thing. It's sort of like, it's what we call it, or I call it verse equalization, where we have to take some concepts that are similar in both universes, but maybe like, ooh, I don't know, and get them together so that we can have the characters interacting, like at a basic level. In this sense, it's taking like the idea of the internalized force that is flowing through Obi-Wan and using that as a substitute for chakra so that Kakashi can at least attempt a genjutsu. Because if you do that, if you take a strict line about like you need to have chakra to do a genjutsu, then and
what he has is
Naruto characters
called chakra.
Yeah. Then
the question becomes like, okay, so in that sense we are giving Obi-Wan chakra, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Does he have chakra? And then therefore does like that affect how he fights? And are we establishing our own rules for that? And that's not exactly what it is. It's more so that we're not trying to cherry pick and limit what characters are capable of in a fight. This will come up in a later question as well. But generally speaking, what we try to do is set up both characters on neutral ground, essentially, right? When we analyze the fight, like what could they do so long as they have access to their powers? So I even wrote something down just to make sure that I say this correctly, because this is a complicated topic. But saying a fundamental core of a series doesn't exist where it reasonably could is potentially handicapping a character. Unless the non-existence of such a subject is defined, such as the Infinity Gauntlet not working in other universes, making the claim ourselves would be considered cherry picking. For example, theoretically, the Force wouldn't affect Kakashi at all, since he's not from a universe where the Force exists. So, like, he's not connected to the Force, according to his universe, because it doesn't exist. So, like, theoretically, in that case, the Force shouldn't work on him, right? And like maybe like Force pushes and stuff would, but like that would mean Force Mind Trick wouldn't work. That would mean Obi-Wan might not be able to read his movements. Like, and at that point, we're basically removing half of Obi-Wan's powers. And is that fair or is that cherry
That's
picking?
also
Like
all
that,
assumptions.
it's complete
Maybe the Force does
assumption.
exist in their universe, and no one's been spiritually attuned enough to figure it out. You know, like
exactly. It doesn't matter if the Force is or isn't there because it doesn't affect Kakashi at all. So there is such a thing as overcomplicating the versus matches. But again, that's why like you could realistically make an argument for any character to win by just saying like, oh, the Force shouldn't exist around Kakashi, or chakra shouldn't exist, so Kakashi shouldn't be able to do anything. Like there are all sorts of directions you can take a versus matchup because there is no set like concept of rules around this sort of thing. We are again using fictional concepts here. It's all up in the air. With
also,
Death Battle, we try to create a scenario where we can keep it pretty on track without going into those like overcomplicated ideas.
And it is kind of like I'd use the Flash as an example. The Flash doesn't work in other universes because the Speed Force is like exclusive to his universe. But if we did the Flash versus anyone in a different universe, why would you want to watch it? Because then it's just Barry Allen who's a guy. Like it's not the fight you're looking for. That's not fun. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like if it's a super well defined thing like the Infinity Gauntlet, it makes sense to like do that. But yeah, like everybody wants to see Obi-Wan with the Force and Kakashi with chakra doing shit. Like they don't want to see these people without powers fighting. That's not.
And that's also part of what the question is. How does the Force stack up against chakra? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
So
exactly.
There's also I have heard I don't remember specifically what the example is, but I have heard examples of genjutsus working on characters that don't have chakra, or there is a way around that. I forget what specifically it is, but I do remember seeing it in the lead up to this and going, oh, good, that answers the genjutsu question that I'm sure people are going to ask. So there might be an avenue there to answer it with like nerd stuff.
That specific question, yeah.
With the nerd stuff. That specific.
You know, that thing that we do over here.
Next one, I'll probably butcher this, but if the Reikiri can cut lightning, then why can't it cut through a lightsaber?
Because the lightsaber is way fucking stronger than lightning.
It's different. So a lightning bolt is.
Also, I can just imagine the person typing that like. I see it there. I'm like, hey, that's a good. Wait, no, I'm gonna think about it. No, it's not that great of a question. No.
Well, we do show in the fight like the lightning Raikiri or the Raikiri kunai clashing with the lightsaber, and to be honest, that might be a little bit of a stretch in and of itself because a lightsaber could cut through a lightning bolt. Because a lightning bolt is a single charge moving through an ionized path, whereas a lightsaber is a continuous beam that is just held in place by continuous.
Also, you could cut through a lightning bolt with your fucking hand.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I mean,
you would die.
You might die, but like, you know what I mean?
There is a bit of this.
Stop a
like,
bullet once.
yeah, right. Like, there's part of that where it's like my knife can cut through spaghetti. Why can't it cut through iron? And I'm just like, oh, hey, sign up for First membership. Support the show. Do that right now, and also use it if you don't have an account. Do it in chat so you can talk to us.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want
actually, I do have chat up over here as well. Yeah, go ahead into the next question. We're getting close to the end, guys. I promise.
You gave Obi-Wan his Legends material. So why did you nerf Kakashi? You cherry picked his power by limiting him to the Shinobi War arc. We all saw the Allied Shinobi Forces symbol on his headband.
So I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah. The models we use. So with most of our 3D fights, since we're now going through the Rooster Teeth animation pipeline, we are able to create custom models for the characters, like Goro versus Machamp. Those are original models made through the Rooster Teeth pipeline. That's not necessarily the case for our Source Filmmaker fights. We're kind of limited to what we can use through SFM. So those models were specifically from Jump Force, and we didn't actually realize until later that, like, oh shit, that's Kakashi with the wrong headband. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter too much, basically, because still in Death Battle rules, we apply everything.
If you watch the episode, feats were
we also like, as as a little Easter egg to know that we did read all of Naruto and like all of the stuff even after the war arc and even and into Boruto, when at the end, because people were like theorizing about this, and they were right, when Obi-Wan crushes Kakashi's Sharingan, which he could do at any point, one of the reasons why he won, his lightning turns purple, which is a reference to his purple lightning that he gets after into Boruto when he doesn't have the Sharingan anymore.
Yes.
So we know what we're talking about.
I do understand that when we bring in an anime character or a manga character, the way, especially a shonen character, the way shonen works is there are specific arcs, and people tend to categorize characters by their arc, and they're like, okay, so this is Pain arc Kakashi, or Allied War Kakashi, or what have you. And we don't really do that in Death Battle. We don't separate characters by their arcs typically. And if we do, we will tell you. It will say so in the episode. It has to be because something
in that arc only exists in that arc. That's the only way we would we would change it.
Well, also, if we have like some specific rules for an episode, and we're like, like for example, when we did the Shredder is a great example, or Leonardo, Ninja Turtles characters, we always kind of have a segment in the rundown.
I'm never not gonna do it, Ben. I'm never not gonna do it. All right.
Oh my god! All right, where was I? Babies. Oh no. Toka and Razar, when are they coming into Death Battle? All right.
Oh yeah, dude, we should do Toka and Razar versus Bebop and Rocksteady.
I mean, they technically exist together in the newest cartoon,
right? Because they came back, right?
Yeah,
in one of the newer comics. Yeah.
Or in the cartoon, in the
wasn't the cartoon
3D animated one. Yeah,
I
they're
didn't
different.
If it was a cartoon,
but they're there. Yeah. The wolf guy ends up transforming into Razar, which is weird. But anyway, where was I? Oh, right. For example, the Ninja Turtles, whenever we bring a Ninja Turtle character in, because there's not like one main timeline for the Turtles, we always have a segment in either the rundown or the intro where we're like, this is how we're approaching this character, right? And if we were to say, bring in Kid Goku, it was just Goku from Dragon Ball up until the time skip or whatever. We would say like, this is Kid Goku up until this time skip in the episode. If we don't say that, then the normal rules apply, which is everything. All the canon material plus non-canon material used as supplemental supporting evidence. That's just the general way we go about this. The episode would be
called like Kid Goku versus something, not just Goku.
It would also, probably.
Well, we don't know.
I mean, it would be made clear in some way.
That's not my call.
I mean, it depends on context. For Goku specifically, it probably would be Kid Goku.
Yeah, we should do Kid Goku versus Crypto.
Crypto?
I was trying to think. There's not like a kid Superman. We're Superboy, but like, right? I don't think they've ever done that.
What if it's Kid Goku versus
Superboy
on DBX?
What if Kid Goku versus baby Superman, who's still in the pod, like on the way to Earth? It's just him fucking hitting a baby until it explodes.
Oh god!
Or it's both of their pods. Because they're both in pods.
Just crash.
All right, let's move on to the next question before we get to something we can't move away from.
Yeah. If Kakashi had hit Obi-Wan with a Kamui, would that have won the fight? Kamui. Would that have won the fight?
Yeah. Obi-Wan doesn't have an answer to being if he was struck by Kamui, he would die. I mean, assuming it struck like his head or something like he needs. If it struck his hand, then it wouldn't kill him. He would just lose a hand. But it would have. The point is that Kamui is a way to kill Obi-Wan. The problem though is that because Obi-Wan's so much faster and he has precognition, like the Force would guide him away from where Kamui was about to strike faster than Kakashi would be able to like redirect and then try to hit Obi-Wan. That's why it's not a reliable kill move. It is a kill move. It's not a reliable one.
We did. I remember in your original script, Liam, for the battle, we originally wanted a scene where Kamui actually does hit, but Obi-Wan's able to move fast enough that it only hits his hand or his arm. Because it's Star Wars. Well, at first we were like, well, there are certain things we got to hit, right? 1,000 years of death, yes. Hello there, yes. Somebody losing a hand, yes. And then Obi-Wan is going to lose a hand. That ended up not being quite as doable as we wanted it to. Just again, we're not using our own custom models for Source Filmmaker, so we were using the Battlefront 2 model for Obi-Wan, and it ended up being like a lot more complicated than we were expecting going into it. And it was like, this cloak, for example, is crazy to animate and weird. Let's get rid of it very early on.
That was going to be the thing at the end too. Yeah.
Although the animators did this awesome thing, they added him using the cloak to deflect the kunai, which wasn't the original plan, and it turned out so good. It was so smart. But him losing a hand ended up not being really doable with the model that we were using. So we're like, I'd rather cut it than have to like try to fix this and end up losing some of the later animation. So that was a decision there. And also on Kamui, like that's another. This kind of goes back to an earlier question where we like set them on neutral ground. If Obi-Wan was like sucked into Kamui and went into Kakashi's dimension, like that would be an example where, well, he's sending him to a predetermined location that we know does not have the Force because it exists in its own universe that does not have the Force. We can use that as an argument to be like, that would be a way to cut off his connection. Again, similar to the Infinity Gauntlet not working in Darkseid's dimension, because those are established rules in those universes. But that is why we put the characters together on a neutral ground, or at least that's how the analysis works. Even if like they're fighting in the environment that is clearly supposed to emulate, like Roshi's house was there when Roshi was fighting Jiraiya, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're saying like they're in Dragon Ball using Dragon Ball rules.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not putting Dragon Ball world rules on there, even though there's not really any rules that would necessarily apply that would change the verdict. We're not like, if there were, we wouldn't be considering that as part of the analysis and breakdown. That's
treat
just
it as if
sometimes
every fight takes place in the hyperbolic time chamber or the room of spirit and time from Dragon Ball. That's the idea.
Yes.
It's neutral.
There's nothing there.
So it is in the Dragon
that.
Ball universe.
Be so. Oh shit! No.
No,
All
it's
right,
always
I think
trying
there's
to
one-
showcase both if we can, like Goku versus Superman 1.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted a city fight for Superman, but then you have to go fight out in weird dinosaur flats of Dragon Ball. You know, like
You have to go to the core.
Yeah.
yeah.
Last question. Why do you even look at non-canon content like Star Wars Legends? Don't you realize that stuff doesn't exist anymore? It is gone. It doesn't exist. You can't Google it. It's not real.
It's literally fan fiction, which is several comments were saying that it was like, they were like, well, if they use Legends, why don't I just write fan fiction for Naruto where Kakashi's omnipotent? I'm like, oh, it's not the same thing as that.
There is some, and I think this. Some people will look at non-canon material as if it shouldn't exist. It doesn't exist. Yeah. It doesn't need to be a part of this. Like, it's not supposed to be part of our analysis. And that the way we look at it is like, we can't ignore material that does exist. Like, it's there.
Yeah.
And it was official and canon at one point. And regardless of its canonicity, it is official material.
Yeah.
Now, that does go back again to our rules. Our rules that we use is we do stick to a main timeline, but extra content can be used if it's supplemental. And the reason why I do that is because there are plenty of viewers who only know characters through a certain medium. Like comic book characters is a great example. Like a lot of people only know Captain America from the Captain America movies, or Wolverine from the X-Men cartoon from the 90s. Like, so we can't just like completely ignore what people know about the characters, but at the same time, we can condense it so that we aren't using those non-canon materials as the main crux of our argument. We are more so using them, again, to support the argument.
Yeah. When the New 52 happened in 2011, like people were like, oh, okay, well, post-crisis can't ever use that in a versus debate anymore. Of course not, because that had been around for 30 years and it's still Superman. And in this case, it's still Obi-Wan. There isn't. It isn't like we talked about the stuff that we would exclude from Legends. If like I use the example of like if Obi-Wan has a force power that where he turns into a giant dragon, like Liu Kang, like we wouldn't use that because there is no
nothing to support that
taking-
in main canon.
exactly.
Taking in like an exceptionally strong like force push or something from Legends is like it's not outside of his wheelhouse or anything like that.
And it's funny
right
too
there.
because like there are times when we'll come across something in like non-canon material that we're just like, there's no way, and then like you come across something in canon that you're like, oh shit, no, actually that means that
Actually,
other
he
thing,
can.
he could totally do that. Yeah.
And again, Mortis
big
is a great
difference.
example of that.
Yeah.
There's a big
You were saying
difference of
something,
like
Sam?
things that are like anime OVAs that are written specifically as like non-canon jokes, right? Compared to this that was written as canon Star Wars material for years, and then just somebody bought it and was like, I don't
Because
like
of a
it.
corporate merger.
So, like,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Big sushi dude in the chat mentions you mean normies when I'm talking about the people who don't necessarily.
Yeah,
and I totally understand that most of you guys watching this show right now are probably not the people I am talking about. Like there's
also Star Wars Legends is dank. I don't want to like throw it out.
Yeah, dude.
Like that.
And if we didn't,
there's a little bit of that. Too. Like, fuck you guys.
anything
Star Wars
about it.
Legends is cool.
Again, we try and settle as many arguments as possible for a fight, and so like if we don't talk about it, if we don't do it, then it's just a bajillion, like 100 times more comments than we have now about like why we use it as opposed to why we didn't even talk about it at all. It didn't use it, and then that wasn't a true fight, and you didn't look at its full potential, and it's like.
Exactly. If we didn't use it, this question just would have been like, why didn't you use Star Wars Legends? Like, I know it's not canon, but it was still written as canon. Like, yeah. So I don't know. Either way. Anyway,
just to wrap it up, full circle. C-Spa dinner in the chat is like, it's the reason why Leo didn't get his dragon form in Ninja Turtles. Tying in the dragon and the Ninja Turtle comparison all together. It's perfect. And that ends our Q&A.
Babies.
So thank you all for watching Obi-Wan versus Kakashi and sharing it around. Thank you all for also listening to the argument and hopefully understanding the argument. And if you do have, concerns about it, like whatever, that's fine. Like we're not here to convince the universe that we're right or whatever. We're just presenting an argument. But now it is time to get to this week's community death battle.
Before we go to that community death battle, there's one more thing. Look, it's a wild world, and Warner Media and mental health strategies for COVID-19 apparently would like me to remind you that while we're all feeling some uncertainty right now, we can face that uncertainty together. And we'll make it all through this if we do. While we have to stay physically apart, it's more important than ever to stay close to one another, reach out to friends and family. So send some texts, pick up your phone, I don't know, Facebook poke somebody. Is that still a thing kids do? I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like a smart thing in 2020, but you probably can do it. We want to remind you that if you need support, you can reach out to NAMI, the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, to get support for yourself and learn how to support others too. Visit NAMI, that's NAMI.org, or call 1-800-950-NAMI-6264. You're not alone. Do it.
What was it again? I don't even remember.
I have no idea. I do not remember.
It was Blaine. Blaine said it.
Oh,
Jack
yeah.
Burton
Snake
Snake
Plissken
Plissken.
versus whatever the other
Jack
guy's
Burton.
name is.
Oh,
Jack
That's it.
Burton.
oh.
Yeah.
Big Trouble in
Clearly,
Little
very
China.
rusted in it. Yeah.
Versus
I need to watch
Kid
these movies
Miller.
really bad.
Those are
so
fun.
as
They're fun.
always,
I haven't seen Little Trouble in Big China in a long time, but
It
Big
looks like a
Trouble in
movie
Little
that I
China.
would.
Oh, I didn't. I just remember that part.
It's
Little
less
Trouble.
well known sequel.
Yeah.
Dude, when I always hated that part when he had the long needles. It was like poking him at. That was gross.
But we'll kind of get through this.
Lopan's the villain.
Lopan, yeah.
Lopan? Yeah.
Let's try to get through this a little quick because we're nearing the end of our time. But as always with Community Death Battle, we let you guys let us know who you think should win and why using hashtag DeathBattleCast on Twitter. So let's go ahead and bring up the answer for the first one we have. I guess Snake,
Jack?
probably.
It's Jack.
Okay, whichever
This
one it is.
one, Christopher Pring says, I have to give this fight to Jack Burton. Snake is a genuine badass. However, he has never faced and defeated supernatural threats of any kind. I think Burton's got the reflexes to skid a snake.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I like the joke, and if you notice, his avatar has a very burly beard, which I'm gonna tend to trust. It looks like he knows what he's gonna talk about.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
The man's
It's
a
very
people
gotta
early.
trust.
Let's go ahead. And
What
bring up the
secrets
answer
are held
for
within that
Snake
beard?
Plissken.
All right, this is from Gentleman Top Hat, and he says, I like Jack, but Snake wins. He's highly trained and a skilled soldier with years of combat experience. He has survived places like New York and LA, maximum security prisons full of heavily armed criminal gangs, and psychopaths with his wits and skills. And to be fair, this is New York and LA from the Escape movies, which
I was
are
gonna say, like, it makes
way
it sound
worse.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm-
in Corona world, it's dangerous in New York right now. So,
Yeah,
Oh.
it's even worse now.
All right,
Yeah,
Leah
you're
would
there,
know.
right?
Yeah, I've
you
been in
need
my
to
room
escape?
this whole
Can
time.
we
I
film
can't
a movie?
leave.
It's like a
I'll be
post
Downtown
Bobby's
LA
there.
has
Snake
always
Plissken.
been pretty rough. So.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely leaning towards Snake myself because of his training.
100%.
Well, all right then.
I can provide an argument for Jack. I think, having seen neither of the movies, doesn't Snake
okay.
Plissken have an eye patch?
He does.
Am I remembering
Yes.
correctly?
You're
Well,
correct.
then, I mean, he has a major disadvantage in terms of depth perception.
Depth perception.
right?
Yet it doesn't seem to
Against-
affect his
against-
bullet firing ability. Like,
Yeah, I feel like in fiction, like having an eye patch makes you more accurate. Like Deathstroke.
Right.
Like you can just
right, it's like you're always
Well,
squinting
it's 'cause
and always.
You don't have
You're
to.
always
You don't have to
squinting
close
100%.
one eye. You don't have to close the one eye to ADS.
Right.
That's it. Like you
don't have the direct line of sight.
It's like there's no slow down.
Yeah, you're perpetually
Well,
sight ready.
Yeah. Guns
but-
don't have sights. Guns don't have binoculars on top of them. They only have one sight. Like clearly, one eye is better for shooting.
No, that's very true. That's very true.
So
It's also a
We're
huge
memeing,
pain
but
in the
it's
ass
an
when.
actual thing.
It's also a huge pain in the ass when your dominant eye is opposite to what your dominant hand is. That's
Oh my
real fun
God.
when shooting a gun.
like me. Yeah.
Wait, I don't remember which eye is Snake Plissken missing.
I don't remember.
Wait, is there
Pulling
a
up right
dominant
now.
eye?
Yeah, there's a
What's
dominant
that?
eye. Like if you look
Yeah,
at
100%.
something about like
Left.
10 feet
Wow.
away and you're like, you
Yeah.
think about, okay, I want to cover that thing with my thumb and you pull it up and you close each eye, your dominant eye will have the thing primarily covered and your other one, your thumb will be off to the side. That's how you find out which one your dominant eye is. Your thumb is very close to your face.
I love it. He's like,
oh, you mean?
No, like this. Like, see, I have something like, okay, see that thing on my shelf
Yeah.
back there, the red cup?
Yeah.
If I'm
you're
like
learning all sorts of stuff.
like this, and then you see which one's your dominant eye. For me, it's my left eye, and I'm right-handed. So
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Same
how
thing
you
for
figure
me.
out
I
your
inherited
dominant
from my dad, but this is how dedicated my dad is to
I just
shooting.
teach
He
you
taught himself
thumbs
to
now.
shoot left-handed so that he could like pair it with his dominant eye.
Ambidextrous shooting.
Yep.
Which I would have to assume that Snake Plissken is, but just to check.
If you only have
I
one
did
eye,
check.
it's your fucking
Kurt
dominant
Russell
eye.
is right-handed. Kurt Russell is right-handed. He's got his right eye still intact. I think he's good.
Okay.
So I love
So-
it. She's like, yeah, if you have one eye, it's your dominant eye.
Yeah, there's no
Probably.
fucking way around that. Like,
It better be. All right. Well, I'm voting for Snake then. Are you guys?
Yeah, I love
100%.
Metal.
The only thing
Metal
Jack
Gear,
Burton has
so
going for
Snake
him is like
Plissken.
luck. He
Yeah.
like he
Jack
rolls
Burton-
with shit
I
as
mean-
it happens, and like he's kind of just
I
dealt
think-
with like he did fight like a lightning guy, and like
yeah,
but like
exactly.
Yeah.
There's some shit Jack Burton in a weird. If you go a little too hard with scaling, I think you can make the argument. But yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna go Snake
I'm
Plissken
trying to
just because
remember
he is an
planet
actual trained
level-
soldier.
Jack Burton.
I'm trying to remember how ridiculous the supernatural stuff was in Big Little China.
well, so he fought this like monster at one point. He basically fought like a version of Raiden.
Yeah, like that's what's in my head right now, and I can't remember how like big the lightning stuff was. But I don't think it would be
I don't think
anything out of Snake's like realm of fighting potential. That's a weird sentence, but he could probably take that on himself. Is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Yeah, then I'm going.
So-
I'm still sticking with Snake.
Yeah.
Snake.
Let's go ahead and bring up the poll to see what you guys had to say.
Yep.
You're
Yeah.
69% of the vote.
nice.
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 Explosion gun and snake gun.
It's a firecracker. Yeah.
Got it.
Snake Plissken takes the win. All right, and just to wrap up today's show, let's lock down a new community death battle with Danny Phantom and Jake Long coming up in the next episode. We thought it would be fun to visit some characters from that kind of era. And
So I tweeted this out.
You want to do the one you tweeted out?
Yeah, because
Let's do it.
When Butch Hartman randomly like tweeted out at us, right? I jokingly responded to him. It was just like, but the real question is, who would win in a fight between Cosmo and Wanda versus the fairy godmother from Cinderella?
I always feel like it's unfair for the fairy godmother because it's just one, right?
Well, so that's the thing. Do we want to just have it be like
fairy godmothers?
I think it should just be Wanda
Well,
and the
and
fairy.
that's
And
the
clone.
interesting thing here, because you're right. There are technically the three ones that appear in Sleeping Beauty and a couple
Yeah.
other things, but then like the main one that
You can't
you
even make
see,
a cake though.
Well,
true.
so here's the thing. No, the three fairy godmothers, they appear in like a bunch of ancillary shit.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So like I'm sure people could find some dumb stuff that they've done. So yeah, it's either that or it's the kindly old fairy godmother, or I guess then there's the live action Cinderella version too.
Yo, when Cinderella gets back and her carriage turns back into like a pumpkin, was it because it was
Yeah.
daylight?
No,
Or
I
is it
think
just
it was,
like-
after midnight.
yeah, it was a time
Oh,
limit.
okay.
new-
For a
it's a
second,
new
in my
day,
brain,
yeah.
it was like in my brain it was daylight, and I was like, she was out dancing till daylight. Like, she should be back sooner. What the fuck's
got-
wrong with you, Cindy?
So I would say we can go ahead and just do the fairy godmother. Does she have a name? The Cinderella
Fairy
one?
I-
godmother.
Do not know. I think it's
Jeffrey.
fairy godmother.
I think it's
Because the
Jeffrey.
other three do. It's
Yeah.
Jeffrey. What? So I would say that fairy godmother, but go ahead and just kind of like scale to the other three, which are Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, according to Wikipedia. Yep. So just bring them all together.
Composite
Just fairy godmother,
Disney fairy.
Disney fairy godmother as a general concept.
Put them
versus-
together and what do you got? Sorry.
Let's go ahead with that. All right, then. Cosmo and Wanda versus the fairy godmother. Let us know who you think should win and why, using hashtag DeathMetalCast on Twitter. There will be a poll up later this week as well, and we'll be excited to discuss that in next week's episode. Perhaps even with a special guest. But we'll see.
Don't sleep on fairy godmother and Kingdom Hearts either. I'm telling you, you got to pull those feet. They're gonna be
Oh, that's true.
Thank you
She's
so much
fighting
for joining
darkness
us
and shit.
for this episode, everyone. Thank you, Liam, for joining us again as well.
Of course.
And we will see you all in the next Death Battle Cast.